at the state of Texas. The state of Texas Department of Health has 65,000 full-time employees. It competes with private practice healthcare providers for delivery of healthcare. The very thing you're concerned Washington is doing, we're already doing right here in Texas. We've doubled healthcare spending in 8 years. We've had Governor Perry for 8. I'm running an ad next week in the Texas Federation of Republican Women's program at their annual convention in Galveston. It says, you know the definition of political insanity. Keep doing what you've been doing, Texas, and expect things to change. It won't happen. You know that, and I know that. This is a David and two Goliaths race. Very early on, I made that comment, and a man very quickly in the back of the room said, well, you can't win. And I said, well, you must not know the outcome of that story. I spoke to the Texas Association of Manufacturers last week, and I asked them, coincidentally, I was talking about that Department of Health, and I said, coincidentally, how many of you in here work for companies that have 65,000 or more employees? And about a third of the room raised their hand. These were big companies in Texas. And one of the gentlemen there said to me, Deborah, how are you going to win? And I said, my campaign manager at that same meeting where the guy asked about David and the two Goliaths said, I'm going to tell you something about Debra Medina. I've been watching her for 15 years. Y'all are all wanting a lot of real precise political plans out of her. It's early. I'm going to tell you something about her. When she comes out of the gate, her butt's going to be firmly planted in that saddle, and she's going to be headed down that track. Got out of that meeting with the Texas Association of Manufacturers, and a woman stopped me. She works for British Petroleum, and she said, I've been here in Texas only about 3 months. I'm glad to be here. She said, there's a little talk in Austin about the governor's race, and your name came up the other day, and somebody said, let me see if I can describe Debra Medina to you. She's a mutter. A mutter? What is a mutter? She said, it is that horse that runs in the mud next to the rail that gets down and gets after it and works hard. That's Debra Medina. That's how we're going to win this race, because you've got a candidate who knows what it is to work. I've got two opponents who've been eating oats and getting fat from it. They are lazy. They don't have their eye on Texas. They have their eye on the mirror and themselves and their lobby partner friends. Part of what we've got to do as responsible Republicans, if you've been on my website, you'll see that I'm advocating some ballot initiatives, and one of those is term limits. The question I asked most often during this last political cycle, as I saw myself being asked to speak to more and more groups like this, was how do I not become that very thing I'm fighting against? And I remembered hearing a number of years ago the story of a study that was done on Hitler's SS troops, a psychological study after the war, and the psychologists thought that they were going to find that Hitler had been very adept at finding the sociopaths in his army and pulling them together and creating that very elite SS troop. And when they completed the study, they recognized that they were just average guys. See, average men and women became Enron executives, and they did things that you could never imagine that they would do. And I began to think maybe there is some objective basis for putting in term limits. See, our founders thought people would go into office and they would serve for a time and then they would come home. Maybe we ought to think as Republicans about putting term limits in as a party rule, not as a law, but as a rule in our party that says, you know what, we love and cherish our public servants. These are men and women that we trust. We put them into office to serve. It's our duty to protect them. We all know politics corrupts, and we all know absolute power corrupts absolutely. What if we begin to put our elected officials into office for a time and we say not to punish you but to protect you? We're going to bring you out. Governor Perry, Senator Hutchison, thank you for your service to Texas, but it's time that you come home. and you restore and rebuild your character and your integrity and your commitment to your family. Thank you for your service. Texas has had enough. We need new leadership. To work my butt off between now and March to win this race and then to go on to win that governor's race. Not because it's something we've ever talked about in the Medina household, but because for such a time as this, a mantle has been placed on me to serve Texas. I want to do that. But really, whether or not I win is up to you. It is up to you between now and March. How hard are you going to work? Because I'm never going to have the war chest that those two have to buy the media that they're buying to get the name ID. This message is a powerful message. Would you agree? Yes. It is the message that started the American Revolution. It is what caused a handful of men 200 years ago to go up against a King George. It is the message that caused a little farm girl from Beeville, Texas to go up against a King Perry and a Queen Hutchinson. It is time that we exhibit courage. I say quite often, America is the land of the free, but we are not. And the home of the brave. It takes courage. It takes courage to step into this kind of battle. But if we don't fight this battle, I told Kay, where's Kay Fisher? Kay Fisher and I have done a lot of work, and Kay and I had a conversation some months ago, and we were both pretty exhausted. Women get a little teary-eyed when they get exhausted, and I said, Kay, you know, we've lost sleep, and we've shed tears, and we've lost money, and we've lost time with our families, but neither one of us has bled a drop of blood in this battle. It's time for Texas to exhibit the courage to fight again, to restore freedom. Because in freedom, everyone prospers. And when we restore that in Texas, it will sweep across our country. We will move back to that constitutional republic that our founders bled for, or we will sleep through this cycle, and our children will bleed to restore that freedom one day. I hope I can look forward to your support. I hope I've encouraged you to get out there and get after it with me. We've got just about 4 months left in this battle. Our numbers doubled in 5 weeks. We got 4 months left. We're going to get up there. We're at 7% in the polls. That number's going to keep growing. It's going to grow more after this. It's going to continue to grow. We can win this race. We absolutely can win this race, but we got to have your help. If you can help us by putting elbow grease and shoe leather into the race, you do that. If you've been blessed financially and you can write a check here tonight, you please do that. If you can write one next month and the month after that, God bless you. Thank you very much. I am privileged and humbled to be here. Thank you very much.